Well, thank you for joining us on our community awareness program. Well, you know, this program really goes to the heart of the matter. And there's no subject that we don't deal with because, again, we're a part of the community. So thank you for tuning in. Well, as you can see, I've got a friend that was with us at least a few years ago in the height or kind of tailing off in those COVID years. I can imagine as you think about COVID, what it meant. And we put a program again just to deal with this and how we should take care of ourselves and what we need to be aware of. And we spoke about many of the vaccines. And let me take this opportunity to again introduce you to my good friend, Bernard Christopher. And I'm telling you, this individual is a very good friend, a man who's educated me, and I'm sure many of you may have remembered him. He's a matron, and he's from the South West London Vaccination Service. And he's full with education and knowledge. And that's why we brought him on the program. So, welcome, Bernard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bernard, remember we were here the last time, and we
Yes.
dealt with some very important things, and I think we were in the height of COVID. Tell me what's happened since then.
So, wow, since the height of COVID, it's, of course, we're looking now, what, 2-3 years ago at least. So it was 2000, I think when we met was about 2022, if I'm correct.
Exactly, around that time.
Around that time. So we've moved away from a lot of COVID in the sense that COVID is still around,
Yes.
but the big vaccination sites that people used to go to, or their doctors or their GPs, or they're less. You don't go there anymore. Also, COVID is only the vaccine is only given to certain groups, so it's not given to all as it used to be. So it's very specific to certain groups.
So we've seen a kind of victory in this area,
Yes.
haven't it? As far as the vaccine is concerned, it's delivered. Would you say?
Absolutely, it's
That's good
delivered.
news.
Yeah, so it's very good news. It's it has of course changed. Like with the flu vaccine, vaccines always get modified, and that has to do with that the virus has changed. So if you look at the COVID virus from when we initially had COVID, it's of course mutated into something different. Still COVID, but it's slightly different. And that's what they've also done with the vaccines. They've modified them slightly to attack, or at least so that your body reacts to a different type of COVID virus than what we were expecting initially.
Well, this is good news. That means there is progress, and as you know, this country has been a champion in that area in providing those 2 vaccines, isn't
Yes,
it?
absolutely.
What was it?
It was AstraZeneca.
AstraZeneca, that's right.
Yeah.
And so, to know that things have made a whole difference in people's lives because of those groundbreaking vaccines, from my perspective, I give God thanks.
Yeah.
But look, we don't want to dwell too much on the COVID, although you said it's still around and it's actually moved into a different area now.
Yeah.
But we want to deal with flu.
Yeah.
Flu, and we're in that time of the year now, aren't we, where people are knocked down with flu. I can guarantee you could tell me somebody right now who's got it seriously, likewise myself.
Yep.
So we want to deal with this. We want to talk about how can we get ourselves prepared for this, again, virus that's come to us and how we can prepare. So it's over to you. Tell us about this flu.
First of all, what I'll do is I'll just quickly back onto COVID. So those who are eligible for COVID are those 65 plus. So anybody who's 65 years old and older can get the COVID vaccine. You can go to your GP, you can go to your pharmacist, or you contact your GP and they will, if you're at home, for example, you can't leave the house, then your GP can send us or another provider an email with your address, with that you need the COVID vaccine, and then a team will come out to your house to get yourself vaccinated. So that's the 65 plus, people with underlying health conditions. So even if you're under 65, if you are a healthcare worker working with elderly people in a care home, we always advise you to get vaccinated. Again, if you have any questions with regards to any side effects or anything that you may be concerned about, there's always somebody to come and speak to you. It's sometimes we'd rather just give you the information. You go away, you think about it, then you make a decision. So it's not about that we want to give it to you. It's your informed decision. So that's the important part with regards to COVID. Get yourself informed. Speak to people that know what they're talking about, and in that way you at least can make an informed decision. But again, as I said, we are now more concerned about flu. Flu in the last couple of weeks has absolutely skyrocketed. As you may have seen on the news channels like the BBC, not Sky Sports, but Sky, you see it a lot. We've seen an influx since the 5th of December. We're looking at about a 350% increase.
I have to stop you here.
Yeah.
What's happened? Where has this increase come from? What's gone wrong?
It looks as if we have an early onset of flu. We know that the flu in, for example, in parts of the world, like in Australia, hit hard over their flu season. So flu always works in two ways. So when it's winter in the other parts of the world or the southern hemisphere, so you're talking about countries, continents like Africa, Australia, South America, they tend to have flu first. So when we do make the flu vaccine, they tend to take 5 different types or 3 different types of flu, and they put that into the vaccine. But they have to think about a year in advance to put that in, to actually make the flu vaccine. So they have to interpret to think, this is what we expect that's going to be coming away. So they'll put 4 different strains, sorry, not 5, 4 different strains into it, thinking this is what we expect to come our way. Not saying that they've got it wrong this time around, but it looks as if flu's hitting early. So if you're not vaccinated, it might hit you harder.
No, this is interesting. I mean, this is why I love programs like this, because we give you information that maybe you would not have heard anywhere else. And so we understand that flu's hitting earlier than normal. If I had to ask a question, what is the best thing to do to prevent flu?
Of course, vaccinating, of course, is the main goal. But if not, then it's, if you are, so first of all, stay away from, if you have got flu, stay away from people who are vulnerable. So elderly, young children with underlying health conditions, for example, people who've got asthma. But what you want to do is you want to catch it and bin it. So
that's right.
Into your hands or into a tissue, you sneeze, put it away, wash your hands.
That's what we're talking about, hygiene.
Hygiene, absolutely. So hygiene, the more important part is wash your hands frequently, regularly. Funny thing is, after coming out of COVID, of course, we used to wash our hands, we used to use hand gels. That's all gone out the window.
But this should be natural, shouldn't it? Shouldn't this be a natural way of life?
It should be.
Hygiene, washing your hands when you use the toilet, it's, come on.
It should be, but unfortunately it's not the case.
Of course not.
Yes, unfortunately not the case. So also with regards to when you're at home and you know that you've had a flu, making sure that if people do come into your home, or at least before they come into your home, make sure that surfaces are wiped, make sure that door handles are wiped, areas that people touch a lot. So when you come into your house, in your home, before you do anything else, you've been on the bus for public services, for example, wash your hands, first thing you have to do.
I mean, it sounds as if, it's simple, but we forget these basic important things of just genuinely basic hygiene, washing our hands, ensuring surfaces are clean, because you're saying these are the things that will cause
absolutely
flu to come into a home, contamination, being with people. We're not scorning anyone directly, but we need to also take responsibility.
Yep, absolutely. Take your own responsibility for your own environment, and in that way you'll protect others.
The question that was asked, I mean, I want you to give me some more figures, but can anyone die from flu?
Absolutely. So if you've got other underlying health conditions, so for example, I can give you an example. For this year, we've already got 1,000 people per day going into hospital.
1,000 people going into hospital?
At the moment, yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of pressure on the NHS, isn't it?
That's a lot of pressure on the NHS. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. So that's compared to 250, for example, last year at this time.
No. You're saying 250 people a day going into hospital last year.
Yep.
In comparison to this year, we're looking at 1,000 people.
Correct. On a daily basis, and that's around the UK. Right. So that's an influx of, as I said, 350% almost. So that's a really big, and that's a stress. And that's not only, now we're talking just about flu. Then we've got COVID on top of it, we've got RSV, and we've got Norovirus on top of it as well. And those are all things that, again, is all bug related. Everything, so flu, COVID, funnily enough, the symptoms all seem to be the same. So that's what you need to look out for.
Well, this is what I'm about to ask you. How do I know I have the flu? I mean, obviously, I may just have a little runny nose and whatever. We think, oh, it'll pass, I'll take home remedies. But how do I know I have the flu?
High temperature. The funny thing with this one is, with this flu that's out now, so it's like a new flu, achy bones, achy muscles, high temperature, people, their voices are very hazy, and they can't do anything. They literally are in bed, can't get up, can't think. It's just, it's really, really severe.
And so therefore, once I see those symptoms, I mean, I ask, what shall I do if I do have the flu? What's the best thing I must do when I have the flu?
Rest, hydrate, stay at home. If your symptoms are mild, if they are severe, contact your GP, contact your practice nurse, for example. They can advise you what to do next. If it is too much, then it is advisable to go straight to A&E or call 999.
You see, these sound really frightening. And so I need to know how to act. If I do get the flu, I need to know what I need to do next. And I know you opened up about these various channels. Could you just run through those again? You might be listening to this program and you can identify with some of those symptoms. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, I don't know what to do. I'm going to ask Bernard again just to tell us, if you're going through those symptoms at this current moment, this is what you need to do. So
what you need to do is you need to either, first of all, see how you're feeling. If you are with somebody else who's also not feeling well. So it's high temperature, what you need to be looking at. Feeling literally unwell, achy muscles, achy bones, very fatigued, very, very tired. Those are major symptoms of flu. That's where you need to start looking into, are you hydrating enough? That's an important thing because, of course, because having high temperature, you'll be sweating a lot, you'll be losing a lot of fluid in that respect. So hydration is very important. Water, of course. Other fluids, for example, tea is always a good one. Warm, and keep yourself, rest is a very good one. But again, as I said, if you feel that it's not getting any better after a couple of days, contact your GP or even contact your GP straight away to tell them that you feel that you've got flu. The funny thing is that flu could also be COVID. And that's the tricky one because they are very similar in side effects. COVID is, don't forget the dry cough that everybody used to speak about.
Yes.
It is still the case. So the very dry cough, which some people, you hear, and again, we're at the time of year where you hear lots of children, adults, they've got the sniffles, they've got coughs,
children,
So again, cover your mouth, make sure if you do catch it, bin it, as the slogan goes. But again, most importantly, if you're not feeling well, do contact your GP to let them know. And sometimes they'll call. The best thing is to call. If you call them and they're long waiting list on the phone, best thing to do is to ask them to call you back. So most GPs nowadays will have a system that they say, if you wish, we'll call you back at a certain time of day. Please do it that way because in that way you don't
put a lot of pressure on the system.
Exactly, on the system. You don't put pressure on the system. So the best way to do it is that way,
All right, let's look at the whole idea of the vaccination. Should I get vaccinated? How often do I need to get vaccination? Why do I need to get vaccinated? Could you tell us about that? Because I know we've got things in our mind about what's in the vaccine. That was the biggest issue in the COVID. What's in it? But should I get vaccinated? Is it important? Bernard, tell our viewers the importance of why we need to be vaccinated.
So vaccinated for flu, the most important thing about getting vaccinated for flu is you protect yourself, but you protect others as well. So some people who can't have the flu, for example, can't have the vaccination. Some people might not be able to have, they might have an egg allergy, so therefore they can't have the flu vaccine. So people who have underlying health conditions, people who are immunosuppressed, meaning that their immune system is not working the way it should be, those are people who can't have vaccines, so therefore those are the ones that you're protecting. Children and young people are the ones mainly that you should be looking at to protect.
So you would always advise people to go and get vaccinated?
What people tend to forget is that you think you may not be spreading it. I don't have the flu, never had any issues, but you may have a very mild type of it. You may get through it quite easily. But what you forget is that you will infect other people around you, and especially elderly and the young people who don't have a good immune system. They're the ones that you'll be affecting. So that's the reason we advise you to go and get it. But again, with flu, as I mentioned earlier, you have the flu vaccine. It's not, again, let's take away the myth, like with COVID, people said, oh, I got vaccinated for COVID, therefore I'm not going to get COVID. You will get flu, even if you've had the vaccination. But remember the one thing, it won't hit you as hard. And that is the very important part to say.
Well, that's very open and very honest, because we do hear, oh, I'm okay, I won't get the flu. And I've heard people say, but I've taken the vaccine and I've got flu again. But you're saying the impact is less.
Absolutely. Because your body has already made antibodies. So even if it's not the flu that you've been given, it already has antibodies for type of parts, maybe parts of that flu. So therefore it will attack you. So your body has made antibodies to attack the virus that's coming in.
Please understand, this is pure education, education, education. We're not ignoring this. You listening to this program right now, maybe you may know someone who maybe said, yeah, I've got the flu, I'm just staying in, that's all. And you may have asked them if you consider taking the vaccination, and they haven't given it a thought. You've had all the symptoms and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I need to deal with this. That's why we're bringing this program to you. We're opening every avenue for you to think about the process. That you not just look after yourself, but also help to not infect others. This is a reality. You know, as I was growing up as a young child, and mum sending me and dad sending me to school, vaccinations to my parents was nothing. We didn't have any qualms about it. We got it. What's the one they take at school? The BCG?
BCG, yes.
Yeah, polio, lump of sugar, all these things. But it seems now as we got older now, we get a little wiser, we're asking questions, or we're hearing the theories out there, conspiracy theories about this is what's happening there, that's what's going on there, that's what I don't believe in it, and so forth. And as ministers, we're put on the line. What do you think we should do, Pastor? What do you think we should do, Bishop? All I do is bring in people of wealth of knowledge like this to speak to you out there, to make wise decisions. Flu exists. Right now, you know someone who's actually going through that. Could that be prevented or lessened if they had taken the vaccine? No, there's another strain out there called the Norovirus. What's
the
that
Norovirus?
about?
So the Norovirus, or for example, vomiting and diarrhea, that is, of course, Norovirus. But there's a lot of different types of Norovirus out there. Some people call it food poisoning, and that's how you. So that's how. Well, don't forget how you get Norovirus. So how you get it is through contaminated food or drink.
Okay.
So people who, for example, have gone to a restaurant, for example, come back, had food poisoning, it's because somebody didn't wash their hands properly.
Really?
Somebody didn't take care properly of preparing the food. Food wasn't warm enough, therefore got contaminated, therefore you got ill. And Norovirus, again, is passed, like with all other viruses, touch. So if it's on your door handle, if you're in the bus and it's on one of the poles in the bus, and you touched it whilst you're waiting to go through, and then you've touched your mouth, that's how it gets into your system. So that's what you always need to make. So as I always say, you come off, either you have some alcohol gel with you, or you go home, wash your hands straight away with soap. Make sure you do at least for 20 seconds to get rid of all the viruses, and that's the way you get rid of any chances of getting Norovirus. Because Norovirus, of course, with children, especially children, elderly, the problem with Norovirus as well is that you're vomiting and diarrhea, so you're losing fluid. So your body's losing a lot of fluid, and you're not keeping anything down. So that's especially, again, with people underlying health conditions, elderly, young, those are the ones that are going to be affected. And it, again, is dangerous as any other virus would be.
So what we're saying here, in a sense, is generally the hygiene, cross-contamination causes these problems. We're on our local bus, we need to keep our hands, I mean, when I think about my wife, in her little bag, wherever she goes, here's the sanitizer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She's just, she doesn't mess around with that.
Nope.
It's always her sanitizer. She carries it wherever we go, and always advise me, just wash your hands, keep it clean. So general hygiene is so important. Would you, as a matron, would you recommend, I mean, before I go there, where? Now there's some people might be thinking, where do I get the vaccine? Where do I go? Who do I call?
So there was no vaccine for norovirus. There isn't that, but there is just, again, hand hygiene. That's the most important part. Making sure everything is clean, making sure everything even vegetables, for example, that you just buy loose, make sure they're washed. Because again, it depends where they come from. They may not, whoever handled them may not have been clean.
A lot of people are not going to remember, although it's a culture of, people say it's OCD, but they're washing their hands always and so forth. Is there something to be said about people like that? Because they know what's out there. I mean, I don't know, it's an extreme, I suppose, but there is something to be said about the person who's always cleaning, because they're conscious about those type of things that are out there that can affect them as an individual.
Absolutely. And what you also see, not very often anymore, but you still see people on trains and buses wearing masks. So
yes, Bernard, I do.
So you do still see people, certain age groups you tend to see, and certain cultures you tend to see using them, but especially the age groups. And that's probably, from my perspective, somebody with an underlying health condition who's concerned that he might get something from people on the bus.
No, that's interesting. Could we enlarge that? Because I must admit, when I see people wearing masks still, and I think to myself, well, we're over that now. We're okay. Don't worry. And I've never given it a thought that maybe they're
protecting themselves. That's basically that's the reason they're doing it. Because they're concerned they have an underlying health condition, for example. They might be on cancer treatment, for example. And the reason they're having it is to make sure that they don't get sick, because their immunity is low. But that means if otherwise they'd have to stay at home. So if they want to go out and about, that's why they're wearing a mask, to at least try and minimize the risk of them getting it. And
so we need to be sensitive.
Yes.
Look, on that note, we're going to take a commercial break at this moment. We'll come back straight to continue, because I think there's much more Bernard's got to say to us that's going to educate us for the time we're living in today, especially in this winter month. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Just the flu. I hear people say it every year. But there's no just about it. In an average year, the flu virus kills 11,000 people. And this isn't an average year. The flu vaccine is the best protection for you and those around you. That's why it's free to those most at risk. Ask your pharmacist or your GP if you're eligible for a free flu vaccine.
Vaccines are your best protection against COVID-19 and flu, which spread more quickly in winter and can both cause serious illness. Protection provided by COVID-19 vaccines decreases over time. So if you're over 50, in an at-risk group, or pregnant, boost your immunity now. And because flu viruses can change every year, many adults and children can also get a free flu vaccine. Of course, I've had both of mine. Find out if you're eligible and book now.
Welcome back. I hope you are enjoying the discussion thus far. We're talking about the flu, COVID, the norovirus. We're just actually talking about immunization, especially in the time of year that we're in now, where everyone obviously is feeling ill due to the flu virus. And so we want to address that. And so in the studio, we have got Bernard Christopher, who is the matron of the South West London Vaccination Service. And he's educated us how to be aware of what these flu viruses look like, that we can actually get ourselves prepared. We don't want to spread it, hand hygiene, you name it. And now we want to talk about moving forward about the other age groups and what type of other vaccinations are out there. And again, we've got our experts who's just going to educate us in this area. Please listen carefully. Because I know it's going to help someone out there. So let's pick it up from there about the vaccinations and immunization.
Absolutely. So, as many of you know, when you were born, you tend to get vaccinations, which are your normal ones, which you get the red book, which your mother may have shown you.
Yes, I remember the red book.
And children get vaccinated. So once you're under 5 years old, so the first year you get vaccinated, you'll get diphtheria, tetanus, polio, you may have heard of, hepatitis B. Those are vaccinations you tend to get.
With the little pricks in the heel of the children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. And then of course you have your, which we talked about. You have your measles, your MMR, your mumps, measles, and rubella. That one you get after a year, your first one, and then the second one you get before you're 4. So you get that in those first 4 years. And then of course you have chickenpox, you have meningitis B, which is again another vaccination. So these are all vaccinations children get. That's when you're up until you're about, when you go to the school age. Then when you become a teen, then there's other vaccinations you can have. Again, tetanus, diphtheria, and polio. Again, that one you get every 10 years. Meningitis, again, when you go to secondary school, always important to have. And then, of course, don't forget for women who are pregnant, it's always important to have tetanus, diphtheria, and most importantly, whooping cough or pertussis. This is one which is a whooping cough is especially for babies who are just born, is very dangerous to get, and therefore the mother gets vaccinated with a whooping cough vaccination. This then goes through the placenta of the mother, so by the umbilical cord, the child gets the immunity, and that gives the immunity for the first 8 weeks of life, basically. And then the child gets his first vaccination. So that's the reason we are very, whooping cough has actually raised its head in the last couple of years. It's back in the UK when initially it wasn't there much. But it's because, of course, pregnant women need to speak to your midwife if you have concerns, speak to your GP if you have concerns. But it is one of those things that's very important to go and get.
But Bernard,
Yes.
It's amazing. So vaccine and immunization has been with us on our journey from a child.
Absolutely.
I mean, I knew that, but now you highlighting, and I'm sure viewers watching this would say the same thing. So when we're actually moving away from immunization and vaccines, it's been a part of our lives.
Yep. It's one of
Amazing.
those, yeah, it is, but it's also partially because I think where we're going to, I think COVID hasn't helped. COVID, of course, was made in such a way that people thought it was made very, very quickly, though therefore they didn't trust it. Of course, there was a lot there are, of course, any vaccine you use, always remember, there is always side effects. So it's not saying that, it's been around for 40 years, so therefore you won't have any side effects. Absolutely, people still have side effects. Some people are allergic to certain components of vaccine. Doesn't mean that it then has this, but I think COVID vaccines haven't helped in the respect that people are choosing not to have vaccinations, for example.
But would you believe as well, I mean, just to argue, prevention better than cure, we knew, but isn't there figures that would have proven to us that these vaccinations, immunizations, has reduced the threat of what those diseases would have caused if it wasn't taken? I'm sure there must be figures out there that would prove immunization and vaccination are essential.
There are, absolutely. There are, but I don't have them with me. Got that. Sorry. I don't have those.
No, but what I'm saying is, I'm not asking you for figures directly in a sense. I'm just saying, but must prove that things have changed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's where I'm going from.
I understand. Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you think about the eradication of certain viruses, we've never gone to full eradication. But what we have done is actually gone to threshold. So, for example, the threshold. For example, coming back to the flu, you need to have, or COVID even, you need to have at least 95% herd immunity to be able to cover that, and therefore you know that you won't get the infection. The problem is, for example, in Croydon, so if we're looking at what we've been vaccinating over the last 2 campaigns, we can actually see that there's been a decrease in the uptake of flu vaccine. And that's actually quite concerning, because if you think about
there's been
a decrease of uptake. And what you see is, and what's concerning is that basically, if you, for example, you need to have 95%. Croydon at the moment is just hitting 60% of coverage. And this is the group, the targeted group we're looking at now. So the 65 plus group that we've targeted for the flu vaccine, there's only an uptake of 60%.
Wow. And maybe, hopefully, a program like this,
Yes.
going out to the nations, going out to our community, might give them a better understanding of what we're trying to do today.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And that's, again, it's not so much, like with flu, it's one of those things. I think COVID, the uptake is even lower, but the flu is low, but I think you are seeing an increase, again, of people taking it because they think flu is a better one to have than to have. So if they had to choose between the two, for example,
I hear that.
they will go for flu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping that this program is educating you right now, the important. We want to see the uptake. We certainly do. We need to see the uptake. That would help to not eradicate it, but at least educate us, and that this particular virus, as I said, the flu virus, will lessen in time. And you can be much more healthier. So that's what this program's about, wouldn't you say, Bernard?
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, don't forget flu. We give flu vaccinations right up until the end of March, because that's when the season, we expect the season to stop. So it's right up until the end of March. So if you come out of January and think, oh, I still want to get the flu vaccine, you can. Our concern, especially with the festive season at our doorsteps in a couple of days, and of course the new year coming as well, and people going to parties or families getting together, we are concerned that people will bring either COVID and flu with them, and what we'll see, and we tend to see that every year, is an influx of people being admitted to hospital with severe flu or COVID symptoms. And again, as I said, we have the rotavirus as well, so there'll be a lot of different pressures on the NHS. So again, yeah, do look out, do come and get your vaccinations if you wish to have it, and if you also just want to come and talk to us, that's absolutely fine, because that's what we're there for, if you have any concerns.
We need to find out where can we go. And Bernard, I think this will be the best opportunity for you right now to tell us, where do we go? What numbers do we call? Who do we speak to if we feel that we are in this path? This will be a good opportunity.
Absolutely. So it's in Croydon, for example. So we, as the vaccination team, we will be at the BME Forum, which is based in Croydon in the Whitgift Centre. We're there every Friday, not for the next couple of days, but beginning of January we'll be back there for the next couple of weeks, 4 weeks at least. But go to your pharmacist in the area. Generally, I think in Croydon, most pharmacies will be doing COVID, and if not, they'll know somebody that's doing giving flu vaccines or giving COVID. GPs are giving flu. They should be giving that automatically if you are eligible. And otherwise they'll ask you a couple of questions, and if they think you are eligible or think that you're at risk, they will give it to you.
And it's free?
And it's free, absolutely.
Free. So there's no really excuse directly. What numbers do we need to ring if we feel that we've got some symptoms, we need to speak to somebody? What numbers do we need to ring? Is it the famous 999?
Well, 999 is that's if you're at the point where you really think that there is no other option. 111 is a good one, because they will give you advice what to do. So they will call you, they will ask you to either go see your GP, or they will ask a doctor to contact you to ask about your symptoms, and then they will advise you what to do next. But if you are really ill, then 999 is probably the best. But again, think of it this way, see if 111 is, or check with your GP, because again, as I said, hospitals are filling up, and you don't want to be waiting in an ambulance, for example, for hours and hours on end to be seen, when actually you might be able to be helped even by your pharmacist, for example, or even by a GP who just can give you advice to see if you can do something first, to see if that might alleviate any symptoms you may have.
And did you say, Bernard, that people actually come to the home?
So we come and vaccinate. So if you are at home, for example, you go to your GP and you say, you will be on the list for the GP as a housebound patient, and then they will then pass it on either to one of my teams or they will send it to one of the teams they work with, and then you will be contacted and we will come and give you COVID and flu.
Bernard, I think this is the time now where, again, from your heart, I heard your passion, and I think this is what we call a community engagement program, where we're bringing the concerns of the community through this avenue to speak to people about what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Bernard, I think this would be a good time for you just to speak into the camera. Not going over everything that you've said already, I mean, it's plain, but just to communicate that, you know, these viruses are real. And thank God we're in a country called, you know, that, although heavy burden, over 75 years going NHS, they're still reaching out to you. Bernard, what would be your last closing remarks about?
My closing remarks would be, most importantly, have a good time together during the Christmas period and going into the new year, but be healthy, meaning
Be healthy, huh?
be healthy, look after yourselves, hygiene, general hygiene, but hand hygiene especially, making sure that if you can get some alcohol gel, probably worth, because if you can't wash your hands in the area, for example, if you're getting on a bus or on a train, then it's probably worth having to just do that quickly. But even when you are to sit down to have food, if you can't wash your hands, then alcohol gel at least kills you know, some of the virus and bacteria on your hands. So it's important, and also as we've mentioned before, you are vaccinating, or you're looking at not only after yourself, but after all the people around you. So family members, your grandparents, your cousins, your uncles, basically everybody around you is what you are, who you're protecting by getting vaccinated. So that is a very important part to do, and give advice to other people. If you feel that people are, you know, not look after themselves, then advise them to come and speak to us. As mentioned before, we're here to talk. We're not here to say you have to have it, but we're here to give you information. And if you have any questions, we're more than happy to give you an answer.
It's almost like the elephant in the room.
Absolutely, most definitely.
It is. It's the elephant in the room, and we need to make the right informed decisions and choices.
Exactly, and that's exactly, and it's, you know, speaking to the right people who can give you those advices, and that's what we're here for.
Well, you heard it all from a professional who is highly connected to the NHS, Bernard Christopher, who's a matron, and he serves in this area. And I thought that's why this program exists, to bring you information. And you know, many of you out there may not have heard information of this level, and maybe you've just kept this sickness to yourself. And by you keeping it to yourself, you just don't know how many other people you've infected, not purposely, but just because lack of information. I really trust that this program has educated you, opened your eyes, aligned you to what you need to do next. We want you to have a healthy life, and especially as we're in the season, we really want you to enjoy yourselves with your families and friends. But let us also be responsible and do what is right, that whatever we do doesn't affect others. It's a straightforward information, this is actually. The virus exists. The Norovirus exists, flu, influenza exists. Hand washing, hygiene, important. This will help maybe eliminate the worst to come. Remember, we are in that winter season where people will be infected, but we have a corporate responsibility to ensure that we do the right thing. Bernard, thank you for taking the time out. I'm so grateful to you. Every time you do come on this program, I learn so much. And I want to take this forward to my family and also into my ministry. And we pray that, you know, you have a great Christmas, great New Year, and keep this message going, because we need to talk about it and address the elephant
in the room. Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, and everybody have a good Christmas and stay safe.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And remember, you are the head and not the tail. Bernard.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you again.
What
It's
a program. And I think this is going to really generate a lot of interest. What do you think?
I hope so. It's that's what we're here for. And if people have any questions afterwards, they can just contact you, and you can send me the questions, and I can answer if they have any questions at all.
I'm grateful. I think it's so important that people understand the importance of vaccines, especially in this time of the flu virus at this moment going around, and that they will actually do something that's going to make a difference. That's why we make these programs.
Exactly.
We're grateful. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
All the best again. Yeah.
Thank you again. All right.
Christian Church, where you're the head and not the tail.